another video in my WM Form design software program series here. First off, we talked about how to get the data in and talked about how these icons and what they do. I kind of figured out what my background imaging problem was. I just come into my field level design page and I selected my show satellite map there, and it shows up. So that feature does work here. Alright, whenever you first bring in a design, it auto calculates a best fit of the field. This particular field needs a downhill direction of 321 degrees, almost 322 degrees, at 3.5 tenths of grade up to this corner. Alright, these numbers are displayed right here in design totals. Currently selected section, this currently matches because it's only one section. When I add a section line here in just a little bit, we'll have the total for the whole job, and then we'll have a current selected design total. Okay. Now a little bit on grades. Over here we can manipulate these grades. Just say I want 270 degrees and I want a 2/10 of fall toward the west. Then we hit calculate. We do not hit this best fit button. This best fit button will right away pop us back to the best fit like that. Okay, so just be careful when you hit that best fit. It's going to be going back to what best fit is. Okay, so our design again, 270 degrees, and then I come up here and hit calculate. Okay, that jumps our yardage up to 1,084 yards to the acre. We select our editor settings to be able to view our proposed contours and cut fill contours. We will select proposed contours, we'll shut off original, and we'll select proposed surface. This proposed surface now is what it would be if we went and moved the dirt at 2/10 of slope to the west. Okay, those would be your contours. Again, we can change the contour interval, 2/10, half a foot, 1/10, and whatever we like. My default is 2/10. Okay, this label is defaulted to off. That is you can change that in your user settings to default the label to on, but if you default it to off, the lines and everything appear quicker. It doesn't have to generate all those labels. And what those labels are is up here by my master benchmark, I've got 101.2, then this next one down is 101.0, 101.8, and all the way down, so forth down the field. Okay, I generally shut those off because on my cursor, wherever my cursor is here in the field, in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, down here is you got existing and you got desired, and then your cut and fill. So when my cursor is in the map, in the field, I can see the existing, the desired, and my cut and fill. So at that point where my cursor is, I've got 3/10 of fill or 0.29 tenths of fill. Okay. Cut fill contour, we can turn those on. We'll shut our proposed off and we'll get our cut fill contour map up. Okay. Here's our cut fill contour map. It shows us where we're going to cut, where we're going to fill. The red is cut, yellow and red is cut, blue is fill. Okay, dark blue is a lot of fill. This is 2.5 feet where my cursor is, or 2.439. So almost 2.5 feet of fill where my cursor is. Alright. We can turn on grade band on, which is right there where the cut and fill meet. That interval is 1/10, so that grade line is 1/10 wide. Okay, I generally shut it off. Okay, Cut fill, colored elevation, that is the proposed surface. So just be sure all of your surfaces line up here whenever everything is correct. Whenever you're viewing everything. Gray surfaces, like when your background is gray. Some people like these, are used to a different program or the old Trimble program. This is more how it looked, and so that was added in there just to give that same look and feel as what they're used to. Okay, I like my colored elevations better. Alright. Next, black surface. Looks like it can be a black background instead of a gray background. Alright. Surface slopes. This here is area. Okay, so this might be a little difficult to do with this particular field. I don't mess with this very much. Anyway, you can see your area of different shades of red, it looks like. We're just going to leave that on max, and we'll go to the next one. It's difficult for me to talk through that. I don't know it very good. Okay, ponding. So at an elevation of 99.96, this is how much water would be covering the field at that elevation. Okay, these elevations are relative to the master benchmark elevation. The master benchmark elevation in this is 100. Okay, so if we put this on 100, well, let me just type it in there. That much of the field would be covered in water. Okay, that you can tell how much of your field it will be covered. Okay. Now if we go down to watersheds, this here also is a proposed versus original. This tells you how much area would be in that watershed, like where it's going to exit the field. Alright, cut fill, of course, and then cut fill analysis. And this is, again, there's 7/10 of fill, there would be 5 acres of fill. So at 1.74 acres, so at 1 foot 7.4, that amount of cut, there would be 5 acres of fill. That amount of fill, that depth of fill, there we go, that depth of fill, there would be that amount of acreage filling that much. Okay, we're going to do this cut, so if we put how many acres has more cut than 1 foot, so we'll put our slider at 1 foot, that's real close. And then we've got an area of cut above 1.03 of 10 acres. Okay, so we will shut this back to 0 and we'll move on. Flow paths, we will get into that a little bit later on in our other design. Like our variable grade designs, those will be shown more. Okay, so basically it's precipitation, centimeters per hour, infiltration type of stuff. We'll get into that a little more on a different video. Okay, we're going to add a section line to show you how to do this. So we're just going to take off, put us a section line right down the middle here on this ridge. Be sure your section lines cross the border. Okay, now we're going to jump this back on proposed contours. Surfaces like that right there, it's pretty weird. Okay, this section 3 is 17 acres. Section 2 is 16 acres. Section 3 we'll just put in here at 270 for this purpose, and we'll put in there 1/10 and a half. Let's get over here on section 2. Let's put in 90 degrees, and this is not a workable design, but it's just for training here. Alright, we'll calculate that. Now you notice how this section 2 is going back to the east, this section 3 is going back to the west. Okay. Total design totals is the whole project. This current selected design is whichever one has this red line highlighted around the field. Okay. 1,200 yards per acre in section 3. 727 yards in section 2. Okay. Calculating import-export dirt, you grab your measure tool, you go around your border, calculate your border, just say we're going to put it around the bottom of the field. Now that's 2,142. You can either just do a yard per foot and hit export, 2,142, do it that way, or you can do length times width times height divided by 27, and then that would be your export yards you would put in there. Okay, then be sure to hit calculate. Anytime you make an adjustment on your field, add import, add export, anything like that, you will need to recalculate to get a correct volume. Okay. Also, if you change your grade, you'll need to calculate. Sometimes this here will come up and say calculation needed. I was wanting to show you that, but it doesn't look like I'm triggering something here that it's not doing that. Okay, so that will be the way to calculate regular straight grade designs in WM form. Now when you hit this best fit all now, your grades go back to what your best fit is, but your export will stay. Okay, your export, like your pad yardage, and just be sure that your pad yardage and everything matches. Okay, if you want to delete that section line, you can go right click on it and hit delete section line. Okay, now if you was watching close, that design has changed thing popped up here, so you can do that. Alright, that is basic. Right, that's basically how you design a field, the basics. There are other, like fixed planes. You can add a section line in here to have a hinge. Okay, so this hinge line would be a fixed hinge. You can hit properties. This is your floating Z and fixed Z, like your fixed plane, and or float, like you could tell that line what elevation it needed to be with fixing the Z. I just leave it on float Z because it doesn't really matter. Right of the line I need 0.15, left of the line I need 0.15, and then parallel it needs to be flat. Okay, then you can hit OK and then be sure to calculate. Okay, there's one problem that guys say, oh, it doesn't ever do anything. Well, what you have here is you're still telling the downhill direction to go at 320 degrees. So you need to select that, hit calculate, and there is your fixed hinge. Be sure that these are not selected whenever you're doing a fixed hinge. Then of course the rest of these are all about the same. You can delete section lines, you can add a ditch, which I haven't played with much. it's quite simple to do. And then exclusion zones, and we'll get into that next videos. Okay, so now in this field 2, if we don't want to use it, we will just select include. Well, what has happened is this whole field is included. So if I would select a part of this that I don't want to touch, see, I've got another section down here and I don't want to include it in my design, and then it's grayed out. Section 2 is not calculated. Okay, after you calculate, oh, here's my design change, press calculation. When these show up, just come up here and hit calculate. Alright, now customer says, yeah, that's what I want to do, and we need to print out cut sheets. Okay, cut fill, you come up here to your reports, you hit cut fill. This is a cut fill map. This is your fixed hinge, total yards moved, yards per acre, and your import or export if you have that figured. If you want the background image in the background, hit show satellite map and you'll get that in the background. Now just remember that that's going to be a lot of ink, so I would just probably print one of those just to make sure that's what you wanted. Okay, here's your proposed contours. This here annotation layer is the fixed hinge line in this situation, and the section 1-2 and the section 1-1. That's all that is. Okay, you can add surface info, and your surface info will come up as these lines, arrows, and then in the background behind that arrow is your grades actually. Okay, you can turn off your contours if you want them, or you can turn on more or less contours, just like in the field whenever you're in the design editor. Okay, colored elevations, you can just turn on flow paths or ponding, how you want it to work there, and then of course you can adjust this to show what you want it to show. Okay, we're just going to leave it on colored. Surface slopes, yeah. Okay, here's your summary, of course your cut fill volumes, your yards moved, your right and left grades, 1/10 and a half, and what else would be of help on here? Right here, this 73.94 CCW counterclockwise, that's an old, something that come across from the old multiplane program. If you have this line, this number right here, that's what the downhill direction is going to be, 106.06. That's the downhill direction. Next videos will be coming to do the other design features of the program.